Hello and welcome to the Deception Tips podcast, where you will learn amazing cues to detect deceit that will help you read people like never before. I'm your host, Spencer Kaufman. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 23 of the Deception Tips podcast. Thanks for tuning in once again. Last time we talked about a sign of deception that was similar to what we spoke about in episode 1. We talked about crossing the legs. Now we talked about the lower part of the legs, so down by the shins and ankles. People can lock those ankles, tuck them back under their chair. Those legs will be in the form of an X. It's more of a warding off, blocking, shrinking, minimizing behavior. In addition, it's also a withholding or a defensive gesture, whereas when people do it, they may be withholding information like they want to speak, but they lock themselves up so they don't say whatever they're trying to say or whatever they're thinking they should say. In addition, it could be defensive, as in when they're being attacked, they make that X to kind of ward off those accusations. It's very, very similar to folding the arms in that gesture could mean many things. It could mean defensive, withholding, cold. The crossing of the legs could mean they're cold. Maybe they're trying to curl up for more warmth to get their body closer together to conserve some heat. You never know. This is why you must look for other clusters and patterns of behavior. As I mentioned, the crossing of the legs can be a cluster. If they make the X, they've locked the ankles, they tuck them under. Now they're minimizing, they've crossed them, they've tucked them. That's a bunch of things. Same with folding the arms. When they fold their arms, that's making themselves smaller. It's covering up. It could be a sensitive area of the body. It's also conserving, folding, blocking. Those two signs in and of themselves are clusters and patterns of behavior. However, they will often occur with other signs of leakage as well, and it's up to you to determine whether those other signs are indicative of deception, withholding, fear, anxiety, or whatever the case may be. So always pay attention to them and then watch for follow-up signs or additional signs. Those are like the warning, and then the rest will come later if you are paying attention enough to see it. Today we are going to talk about a facial expression, and this is more of a general facial expression, and we've hinted on it and discussed it a little bit already, so you should be very well familiar with this. We're talking about the left side of the face. Now, in episode 14, where we talked about symmetrical expressions, I said something about how expressions should be symmetrical on both sides of the face. They need to happen simultaneously, symmetrically. They should be even. You should be able to put one of those old coloring book things where you have half the picture and then you're supposed to draw the other half based on the other picture. Oftentimes when I was a kid, I used to just fold it backwards and then I could just trace it and say, oh, look at that, I'm a good drawer. But really I wasn't. So folding it in half backwards is a nice little trick that you can do if you want to complete the coloring book. Anyway, when you see symmetrical expressions, it's often an indicator of truthful expressions or truthful emotion, because both sides of the face are expressing evenly what is going on in the brain. And that means both areas of the brain, or both sides of the brain, both hemispheres of the brain are lighting up and firing equally, so they're expressing on the face equally. However, when you see things asymmetrically, with the exception of contempt, which we talked about in episode 19, that usually means people are being deceptive. Now, usually this asymmetricality happens more on the left side of the face. Why? Because the right cerebral hemisphere is more prevalent in deceptive emotions than the left cerebral hemisphere. That is more truthful. And the left side of the brain controls the right side of the face, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the face. This is why on the left side of the face you tend to see more asymmetricality or more expressiveness when a true emotion leaks on the right side of the face. It's more of a masking gesture. When I spoke about the research project I did in college about detecting smiles, oftentimes you could see fake smiles were more prevalent on the left side of the face. This is because they would start out on the left side of the face as a fake smile, then perhaps it turned into a better smile or a real smile because it actually made the person laugh, or they just carried up that right side of the face to try to match the left side, and then you could tell it was an uneven smile because the left side of the face will often be the precursor or the starter in most false emotions. Oftentimes when people are trying to fake a smile, you'll see that little archaic smile curl up on the left side first. So here we go. Deception tip 23. Watch facial expressions carefully. If the left side is more expressive than the right, that may indicate false emotion or deception. Here it is again. Watch facial expressions carefully. If the left side is more expressive than the right, that may indicate false emotion or deception. Now, notice I say false emotion or deception. Not all false emotions are deception. Yes, it is deception in the fact that it is a false emotion, but it doesn't mean that the person is lying. For example, I could see something and smile and pretend to smile, but that doesn't mean I'm lying about it. I'm just portraying a false emotion because I don't really feel joy or happiness, yet I'm smiling to be polite. Now, you could claim that that is a form of a lie, and you would be right, it is. And that's some of the statistics that people get when they say the average person lies like 5 to 10 times in 15 or 20 minutes of conversation. Some people say it's even 5 times in 10 minutes of conversation, which would be like a lie every minute. That is a lot of lies that happen, but they attribute that to all of the micro expressions and false emotions that people see. So if you see a liar happening and they're watching all of your micro expressions and you fake a smile, they would count that as a form of a lie, which is something interesting because it's a false emotion. You didn't lie to hurt anybody, but you maybe faked that emotion, so they count that as a lie. That's where they get some of these statistics. Other statistics are a little bit less. They say maybe you lie, 5 times an hour. There are all kinds of statistics. You can look them up online, get a better idea of how many times you lie, then pay attention to yourself, see how true some of that is for you. Point is, everybody lies all the time. Whether it's malicious or social or polite is up to the judgment of the situation. We'll talk a lot more about the symmetricality of emotions, the left side of the face, the right side of the face, all of this coming up after this.
Do you have a Facebook account? Of course you do. Like the Deception Tips Facebook page and participate in some online discussion, read more information, write a review, or simply say hello. Like the page today on facebook.com/DeceptionTips Spencer Kaufman.
Facial expressions must be symmetrical. Everything must be symmetrical. We've hit this many, many times. Episode 14, symmetrical expressions. Episode 12, when we talked about simultaneous gestures, how they must be congruent. And also we talked about symmetrical gestures in episode 16. Therefore, you need to be watching for symmetricality. Truthful expressions, truthful signs of body language and leakage will be symmetrical, with the exception again of contempt. Now remember, contempt is the only asymmetrical facial expression, or one of the only asymmetrical facial expressions. In addition, it is predominantly displayed on the right side of the face. This is because, as we've said, hopefully you remember, the left cerebral hemisphere is in control of the right side of the face, and the left cerebral hemisphere is also more truthful than the right cerebral hemisphere, which means if the left cerebral hemisphere is truthful and it controls the right side of the face, then you are going to see a lot more truthful expressions on the right side of the face. Now, this isn't always the case, because most of the time truthful expressions are going to be symmetrical, which means they will happen on both sides of the face. So there's a little bit of hang up or a disconnect there, but in general, the right side of the face is going to be more truthful, but they have to happen symmetrically, with the exception of contempt. So you'll only see that one pretty much on the right side of the face. You may see a fake contempt, or like one of those little, like we said, archaic smiles come up on the left side of the face, because that is controlled by the right cerebral hemisphere, which is more dominant in false emotions. It is more of the tricky side of the brain. It is the part of the brain that deals with more creativity, which is obviously where people come up with lies. They are creative. They come up with those things out of the blue, out of all of their spontaneous or planned creation, whereas the left side of the brain is more reasoning, logical, mathematical, etc. So that's more of a rules and order, whereas the right side is more free-spirited type, which could be why, again, part of it that the right side is more deceptive, because that needs more free-spiriting and less rules. and the left side could be more truthful because that needs more rules and order and logic, etc. So those are some good generalizations for you to kind of keep in mind when you're looking for different signs of deception and behaviors, because that will help you understand more of the reasoning behind them, and it will help you see more when you know why it's happening or how it's happening. You understand more of the science behind some of the behaviors, then you can see them, know what they mean, know where they're coming from, etc. So make sure to watch facial expressions carefully. Now, this is very, very true with facial expressions, although it's true with the rest of the body as well, because the left and right side of the brains are not only contralaterally related to the face, they're contralaterally related to the entire body, with the exception of the sense of smell. That goes directly right up to the same side of the brain, but that's a different point, and it's really nothing to do with deception. So pay attention to the whole body, obviously, because each one is contralaterally related, but most specifically the facial expressions of emotion, because most of that leakage is going to be displayed on the face. Now, you'll have to get really good at spotting it within a split second or within a fraction of a second, but that's where it's going to be displayed first, and then it will be masked. So oftentimes you'll see it expressed truthfully, which would be on the right side of the face, the micro expression that could happen. Then you might see the left side of the face compensate for that with a false emotion. So a little flash of enjoyment might happen on one side of the face. On the left side, that would be false. On the right side, it would be true. So if they have a little bit of a contempt, let's say, and it happens on the right, then they may throw a little smile up on the left, and it'll be a split second different. Or if there's some form of surprise, then it'll be symmetrical on both sides. Smiles will be symmetrical on both sides. But watch out for symmetricality and masking, because that's how it will be. And oftentimes, when people mask an emotion, they'll do an overcompensation on the left side of the face. So if there's a little bit of a contemptuous or a disgust smile or disgust lip curl on the right side of the face, then the left side of the face will start to compensate. And oftentimes, let's say they both go up to like the bottom of the nose. Well, the left side may go up a little higher because they're trying to overcompensate to make up for that emotion in that masking. So then you'll see it started out asymmetrical because it happened truthfully on the one side of the face on the right. Then it happened falsely on the left side of the face. Then it continued on the left side of the face and became asymmetrical again. So it started off asymmetrical, became symmetrical, then overcompensated to become asymmetrical. So the bottom line is you're going to watch for symmetricality. You're going to watch the sides of the face to determine where it started. False emotions will start, most likely will start on the left side of the face, and then the right side may be consciously controlled to kind of symmetricality and try to get that so it looks more genuine and more real. Obviously, in a false emotion, both sides of the face are going to participate, but the truthful side or the right side is not going to believe itself that it is a true emotion just because the left side has started something. It's kind of funny because I talk about it as if they are two different entities that are kind of happening opposite of each other or in existence with each other and trying to work together, but they're not. But really it is the same entity in the same body that is happening. And all of this, as I'm talking about it, it seems like, okay, this will happen, then it'll be on this side, then it'll be on this side. We're talking all of this happens in less than a second or less than 2 seconds, or smiles, they take like 4 seconds and a maximum. Anything longer is generally not true, or it's a prolonged smile or lasting, which is only done for social or polite or etc. But all of this stuff, one side of the face, the other side of the face, then back to this other side, it all is within split seconds. So you have to pay attention and watch it quickly, because it's not something that's like a series of events that just unfolds over time. I mean, it is a series of events and it does unfold over time, but it is a super, super short amount of time that if you blink, you could miss it and it'll be over. So you won't see that deception happening. You won't see that expression taking place, which is why it is so important to watch out for other signs of deception and behavioral clusters, patterns of behavior, etc. Because the more you watch, the more you'll see, and the more you will be able to determine whether or not it is truth or lies. I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Deception Tips podcast. I encourage you to share it with your friends, subscribe to the feed, check out the Deception Tips blog, and take a look at the books I have available. And as always, tune in next week for a new Deception Tip.